What does that mean? Ad copy comes before design. Sam, what do you mean by sales psychology? Like, can you break it down with something the listener could take away? So, do you think it's fine just to invest in quality ad copy once and then you're done? Or are you more in the camp of like, get good ad copy, but then continue to update that ad copy? Hey there, welcome back to another episode. You can see that Sam, the owner and founder, the lead copywriter at Nomad Copy Agency, is with me again. This is our second episode together. Basically, through her agency and membership called Copy on Demand, she helps service providers get copy that sounds like them but converts even better. And I have a treat for you. I'm saying this real time because we haven't talked yet. So, like, I don't know for sure that's a treat, but I believe so because we just got to get to know each other in the previous episode, which for us was moments ago, which for you, you might not have heard it yet. Head to the description below. It's the segment called Before We Hit Record. And it's really cool because you get to learn about Sam and her journey before she became the owner of the Nomad Copy Agency and all that went into that. We're talking panic attacks on the beach in Vietnam after she told her day job she's quitting. And I won't spoil it, but that link is in the description below. I can't wait to share more tips and tricks and strategies with you that help online course creators and online membership owners scale from low six figures, let's say $250,000 in annual revenue, up to $900,000 in annual revenue. Now, we're going to talk about, right, Sam, sales pages and ad copy and how copy matters a heck of a lot more than the design of your sales page, and how if you do it right, your ad copy can be working for you while you sleep, while you're traveling, while you're doing the other things that you were meant to do with your business. Sound like a good topic?
I'm down. I'm so down. Let's jump in.
Let's jump in. So, my first question is you had written something, and I hinted at this in the last episode at the end, but for somebody who hasn't heard that episode yet, you had written something to me, which is that copy comes first before design. And you, I would say, are a master sales page ad copy creator. I know because I've heard about you. We met inside of the Mixer Mind, and I've looked at your website. So, what does that mean? Ad copy comes before design. Break that down for the listener, please.
Yeah, so it means a couple of things. It means you should hire your copywriter before you hire your designer. It means that you should write your copy before you do your design. And it means that people see your copy before they see your design. So, to break that down, if you were to look at a page, the first thing that you're going to do, a lot of us have heard this if you've looked into marketing and marketing psychology at all, is that you read in a Z pattern. Especially native English speakers tend to read in a Z pattern. People who read in the opposite direction tend to read in basically just a reverse Z pattern. The first thing that we're going to see is the biggest words on the page. We are going to understand if a program is for us based on the words that are on the page. Now, yes, it's strategy or it's copy and design, and they have to go together strategically. But if you are hiring a designer, the first question they should ask is, what are we designing around? So you're going to need the copy that goes into the design, whether that's for a sales page, web page, ad, etc. Because they're also going to need to know what's the vibe of the design? What's the feeling that we're conveying here? And you're going to convey those feelings both with the copy and the design, but the strategy is going to be that the words are going to dictate what that feeling is.
Okay. Can you give us an example of what can happen when somebody goes for design first because of all the pretty WordPress templates, and then ad copy maybe isn't an afterthought, but definitely happens second?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an example of where I see that happen often is that a designer will then give their clients copy templates. And a lot of times, one, they're not written by a copywriter, so they're not going to be backed by the same sales psychology. And they'll be designed to fit into that design rather than to be written as the conversation, the sales conversation that needs to happen, because sales is a two-way street. And if you're fitting the copy into the design, then you're limiting what you can do with that copy, and you're limiting the connection that you can have with your clients.
Huh. Okay. I feel like we gotta back up a moment. You said sales psychology, and then you said sales is a two-way conversation. And so what I heard from you is that if somebody does the design first, their designer could give them some idea of what to write, but they would have copy that's written for the design rather than following sales psychology in this two-way conversation and then having the design complement that. Is that what I said? Did I hear that right from you?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So my next question, I'm sure the listener is like, Sam, what do you mean by sales psychology? Like, can you break it down with something the listener could take away?
Yeah, so there's some really simple examples. One, talking about yourself rather than other people. So the psychology is then going to be that somebody is going to internalize that the copy is not for them, it's about you. So something that we see a lot, for example, would be like if it's a personal brand, if I had a personal brand called Sam Does Things, then it'd be like my header on my sales page would be like, "Hi, I'm Sam and I do things." But as a reader, I want to understand what things do you do that benefit me? So if I am talking about myself on a sales page and that I was kind of given this guideline to talk about myself on a sales page, I'm going to lose people a lot faster. So that's an example of sales psychology where we're talking about ourselves and what we do rather than talking about the customer and how we can help them. Um, there's also things, like I said, like reading in a Z pattern and following the natural path that people are reading, understanding what people need to hear and when, and also driving that conversation of subtly leading people to the next question and then conveniently dropping the answer for them. So in a sales page, that would look like talking about your problems and then saying, lucky for you, there's a solution and here I am. So kind of really creating a flow to your copy and having a reason behind that flow.
I like that. I like that. What I don't like is lots of images of my own sales page are popping up in my mind, and I'm thinking, "Ah, yes, I need to hire someone like you and not try to write my own sales copy." I would you say that you were always really good with the written word?
Yeah, it's like even when I was a kid and I would get all frustrated and grumpy and angsty, I would go to my room and write. It was always an expression for me.
Okay. Was that something that your parents encouraged you to do, or you just happened to ask for a Dear Diary and go write?
I would have to consult the parents on that one. I mean, I grew up pretty average American. So, I had the little art kit that, folds and the markers were always dry inside of it. And, we,
Okay, okay. I guess I didn't have that.
you didn't have one of these art kits that, like,
A caboodle, so to speak, or what is okay.
I don't know. It's like there's like a line of colored pencils and then a line of markers and then like a line of the oil crayons. And then, yeah, yeah. Somebody posted a picture of one on Threads the other day. And I was like, memories unlocked because I remember the year that all of my cousins got one of those for Christmas.
I did have one of those. I now know exactly what you're talking about, like the plastic case and it kinda connects, like, clasps together. If you're watching YouTube, you can see my hands trying to do the plastic case clasping thing, clamshell opens, and yeah, yeah, like, it's almost like the artist's sampler kit, not like hundreds of colors in one thing, but yeah, the markers that were never really good, and then, like, the oil pastels that were too oily. Yeah, okay, cool, alright.
I was given the tools. I had other artistic things, I guess, to do. But I remember my default being that. And I do remember being encouraged. Like I was 11, 10 when 9/11 happened, and I remember being encouraged like go write about this and go write about your experience because this is the moment of a generation and you'll want to know what your reaction was someday. So I remember my mom being like go reflect on this and like doing that several times throughout my life and like having that available. And my mom's not necessarily a writer. She journals occasionally, but I don't remember like it's not something we did as a family or anything. But I do remember being encouraged to write.
Well, shout out to your mom. I was gonna say, because before you said that your mom encouraged you for that, I was like, "That is a big thought." Hey, we'll get right back to the episode in a moment. You wanna make sure that you're avoiding all the mistakes with Facebook ads that could cost your business a good amount of money because your ads just aren't running like they should be? Well, you can hop on a call with me, and I can look at your Facebook ads, and you get to leverage my 3 years of Facebook ads management experience, optimize your account, fix it up right then and there on the call so that your ads will be running better and getting either more leads for you or making more sales for you. If you want my help, that is the artofonlinebusiness.com/call. And we can hop on Zoom together and you will learn so much as I fix your ads for you. All right, now back to the episode. To have at that age, like, record what happened during 9/11, like, so, okay, wow.
Yeah, but I still have that little journal, and like it's interesting because I was like parroting the ideas around me too, which we don't need to get into in any way, but it is interesting too to like look back at various moments and see like my reflection versus writing down quotes of people around me and stuff and how that's evolved because I still write in a similar way where like if I hear a great quote, my journal's actually propping my computer up right now so I can't hold it up to you, but my journal is almost always within arm's reach.
There. Wow, okay, cool. That's funny that you say I'm gonna come back and ask you about how sales copy can work in funnels and work for you when you're doing other things like traveling, because you travel a good amount. You're in Bali right now, right? You wanna list the countries that you traveled to in 2023? Since your business is called Nomad Copy Agency, and you told me in the previous episode that literally you had named Nomad because you wanted to be a nomad, and if people thought, like, you were gonna be based in one city in the US, well, they had another thing coming. So, where have you traveled to in last year while running this business?
In the last year. Yeah, so starting in 2023. So I'm currently Bali is my 66th country. I'll start there. So since the beginning of 2023, I did a big trip throughout South America. I went to Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia. I spent a month in Bolivia in a villa with some friends. Went to Chile after that. Came back to the States. I really love summer in the U.S. So I usually spend summer, and I'm in my 30s, so everybody's getting married all summer anyway. So it's a good reason to be in the States. And then this year, my trip has been, let's see, I landed in Taiwan. I spent almost a month in Taiwan. Um, I stopped in Brunei, actually. That was interesting. I spent a couple days in Brunei, Jerusalem.
I would say, yeah, that's a bit off the standard travel path.
Yeah, went to the Philippines from there, Vietnam, and now I'm in Indonesia. And then later this year, I'm probably going to do a winter trip through Eastern Europe.
Alright. Thailand beaches, Bali beaches, Vietnam beaches, rank them from 1 to 3.
Thailand for diving, Bali for surfing, Vietnam for chilling.
There you have it. And now the listener is pulling open their Google Maps or their maps on their phone and typing in these countries. Because I mean, I before living in China, I wasn't aware of really much over in Southeast Asia, and even now, like, don't give me a geography quiz. Like, what's that one dude? Jimmy? Is that Jimmy Fallon who used to roll around the streets with a board, the globe on like a whiteboard, and ask people like, "What country is this?" Or like, and they would be like, Africa." And he's like pointing like at Asia. He's like, "No, Africa's a continent. This is." Who was that?
Yeah, I was diving in the Philippines last month, and the dive instructor, as we were up like on the boat between dives, was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, home base in California." And he was like, "Oh, cool. Is that close to Europe?" And I was like, "No."
We'll not be having a conversation anymore. Goodbye.
And I mean, I feel bad, and I don't want that to reflect, any sort of broader structure than that one Filipino band. But I was like, no, we're far off on that one.
No, I mean, it plagues everyone, right? Like, I remember when I went to China and then came back, like, my first trip to China was in university, and I came back, and one of my good friends was like, "Oh, how was China?" And I'm like, "Oh, it was the best," and I'm sure you know what happens, like, you've traveled, you experienced so much, like, so many things are, like, conflicting in your heart as, like, you kinda encounter and learn how to, like, be a part of all these different cultures, and then you go back to the States, to Iowa, right?
Mhm.
And someone asks you a question, which, great meaning question they wanna know, and they're like, "How is it?" And you start telling them, and their eyes start, like, glazing over, kinda? Happen to you?
Yeah, yeah. My structure for that is to pick something that they know about and go from there. So for example, my first time I traveled abroad, I came back, my dad's buddy he drives semi. And he was like, "How was France? Did you have to use the bathroom outside?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, then like how was it?" And it's like, it's so weird. Like the semis over there, I noticed are all the flat front semis where ours have like the big, nose on them, and that was so different. And it's like I just had to pull it to his reference because as somebody who has traveled a lot, the man has driven millions of miles but never been outside of the US, who can fault him? So I just bring it back to people's awareness. Oh, my friend loves seafood. I'm going to tell her about the seafood in Bali versus like, the cool co-working spot that I found.
Yeah, I'm the first one to really want to be sensitive to the person who I'm talking to and not have it be like, "Oh, look at me, I've traveled around the world," because I haven't even traveled. I just have lived in, like, 4 different places, but, like, I haven't seen much around those spots. But, I like how you could be self-aware enough and be like, "Okay, we're gonna talk about the difference in the semi trucks," and leave it there. But yeah, what I was gonna say is I remember my friend, he asked me how China was, and then he, in the same sentences, asked me, like, if I had learned how well I learned Japanese, and I was like, I don't really speak Japanese in China," and I don't think I handled it as gracefully as you did, but
Yeah, but there's a copy lesson in there though, in that like we speak our own languages, quote unquote, right? Like some people speak spiritual healing and some people speak Facebook ads, and every everything has its jargon. And when it comes to writing our sales copy, there's the lesson there is that we have to relate it to the people who are reading it and understanding that we are bringing people to our awareness that they're not yet there. So there's so much to think about, like when we're writing sales copy, is like who we're writing it to and understanding who our audience is in that aspect as well.
I like it, I like it. So do you think it's fine just to invest in quality ad copy once and then you're done? Or are you more in the camp of, like, get good ad copy, but then continue to update that ad copy?
If you're continuing to update your ads and your audience is evolving, then continue to invest in it. But if it's for a single launch, I mean, but the whole point of running ads and the whole point of launching is testing and understanding who your understanding who that audience is. So I think, to do it once, yes, but to understand that then you're going to continue to improve upon it, also yes.
Wow, we're not editing that out at all, but forgive my brain that every time I say the word copy, it's in the context of ads. So I did not mean to ask you about ad copy. I just meant sales page copy or copy in general, but, like, ad copy always is one word or one phrase for me, like, and so I don't I'm so sorry, but, that's staying on the podcast too because what your response was great, but I was more thinking, like, sales page copy, like, does the answer change? Is it still, like, one and done, or is it this ever evolving process?
I mean, I think that programs tend to evolve. Your ideal client will tend to evolve. So theoretically, I think you should be able to launch from the same sales page several times, but also make sure that you're putting tracking on that sales page to understand where are people clicking and how does that change over time. And then potentially, rather than completely rewriting the page, you have the opportunity to improve a page and tag in somebody there. But you also have to give people time with a page. Sometimes it takes a couple launches before somebody opts in. And if you're constantly making changes, same thing goes with your branding, same thing goes with your ads and sales pages and all of the things. But you also have to give people time with it. And so I think I don't mean to give you a lawyer, it depends type answer, but I think that to understand that you can do one and done, use it several times, but also make improvements when and only when it's necessary is a good way to look at it.
Okay. I'm gonna ask a very specific question before we kinda transition to the beauty that copy can be in an email and making emails sell and work for you. My question is for a sales page. Let's say the listener already, let's say they're at $300,000 gross annual revenue. They're doing well, but they have become aware that they're not happy with, let's say, their 4% conversion on their sales page. But the thing is lengthy, right? Because it was written for them. They invested in a copywriter and they are looking at doing so again, like working with a copywriter, but they're not sure what part or parts of their page need to change. How might they be sure? Like, how might they decide what to tackle first?
I am a huge fan of asking your audience. Ask the people that did convert that you love working with. Ask the people that didn't convert. You can offer them an incentive in exchange for their feedback too. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that as long as you're like, within your ethical code. But if you're offering, you give me feedback and I'll give you, a consult in return. That can be huge. Also, looking at the hard data. So we've got qualitative and quantitative here. Like, look at the hard data and look at where do people get to before they exit your page.
What do you mean?
So if they're scrolling, and something I see people do a lot, and I see a lot of templates include this, is drilling in on problem language without transitioning to possibility language. So the whole point of understanding your client's problems is to be able to transition to framing yourself as the solution to those problems. And we'll see maybe you are point of all of the things that are going wrong. And then this is causing point. And so we're going through showing the client, the potential client, that you know them, yes, but also spending so much time in that. And if you were to say print off a sales page and highlight all of the problem portion, if you're doing that for 25-30% of the page sometimes, because you did all this research and understanding who your client is and what their problems are. So then you turn around and you want to put all of that on the page. And it's great that you did all of that research. But when we then see that, what if your client is spending, and if we then cut the page in half or cut it where they stop scrolling, what percent of the page is problem language up until then is likely going to be closer to 60%. So what you've unconsciously done is aligned yourself with their problems, not their solutions. And that's typically where I see people falling off, is when we've gone through all of their problems, but haven't started to turn the frame towards the solution.
Oh my gosh. Of course you know this stuff. Of course you're saying things that, like, just make so much sense. You write sales page copy?
I do. And I love looking at people's data and saying, okay, so we see then that people are dropping off on your third problem section in a row. Maybe we need to start telling them about their possibilities sooner, or something like that. That's just one example. And every audience is going to be different too. So that's why I take a look at both, like I said, the qualitative and the quantitative. Ask your people, but also look at the numbers.
I like that you responded with data when talking about the art of sales pages and where to start first in switching a sales page up. I could ask plenty more questions, and I'm sure the listener does want to hear some answers. But first, actually, I think for the rest of this episode, we're just going to talk about emails, because one subject I want to talk about is how, if you do it right, your email copy can work for you while you're doing the things that you love. Like, we got to forget, some people do forget, like, we didn't start these businesses just to grind away behind two monitors for 10 hours a day, right? Like, we want to be able to separate, so to speak, and the business does through ad copy. There, I did it again, through copy, bringing people in and selling products. So talk to us a bit. I know that's a broad question, but I'm segueing into emails. What would you say to the listener about ad copy and emails? Dang it. About email.
I mean, let's lean into the slip of the tongue of ad copy, right? Because if we are running a great ad that has great copy, where does that ad go? It goes to some sort of landing page or opt-in page. Once they give you their email and first name, typically, maybe more, then what happens? They start getting emails from you. This is where you start to nurture them. So you've made the quote unquote sale of getting them in the door. Now you have to remind them why they're there. And this is your huge golden opportunity to either this is where they're going to create that real brand recognition. This is where they start to drive it home, because this is where it has become a reciprocal relationship, because you've been giving them things, you've been pushing things towards them. Now they're choosing to interact with you. So the relationship has changed. And if anybody's ever bored and looks up marketing funnel, you're going to see that that's where people go from being problem unaware to being problem aware to being solution aware. So their persona as an ideal client or as a potential client has changed. They have now become solution aware. So you're taking them to, typically they give you their email in exchange for a solution to a problem. Now you solve their next problem and you continue to show them that you know them and anticipate their needs. And I think about it like, I always tell people the internet's a party. What do you need when you show up alone to a party is you need somebody to tell you, sign up and get your name tag right over here. And then once you've signed up and gotten your name tag, what happens? You like turn around and then you're alone at the party. So you need the person giving you the name tag to say, oh, if you want drinks, they're over there, but you've got to meet my friend QUÄY.jo. He's incredible. You guys both love cycling. You're going to get along really well. Let me introduce you to him. Like the flow of a great party is going to lead you to the next thing that you need without you having to say, excuse me, person giving me my name tag, I'm really nervous here. Can you introduce me to somebody so I don't feel so weird? It's anticipating that next need. And that's what emails accomplish. Is emails are the milling around at the party. The emails are, oh, and by the way, then they start to sell, right? By the way, the silent auction is over here, which is why you're at this party anyway, is it's a fundraiser. And they're leading you to the next person, the next opportunity to elevate. And then they're going to sign you up for the booster club. And I don't know how I started picturing this party inside of a high school auditorium, but I did. So all of a sudden, now I'm signing up for high school things. But they're going to start upselling, and they're going to get you even more connected, and they're going to make you feel special. They're going to get you involved in this gathering. I started talking without knowing where I was going to end up, and that was a really fun roundabout. So I'll take it. Emails are a party. Emails are a party.
I'm gonna ask about selling from the email, and we'll finish here, but the reason I'm, like, looking around and smiling is because you're talking about partying, and my voice assistant, all of a sudden, like, my speakers were playing hip-hop party music, and I'm like, I don't know how well if you could even hear that at all, but I'm like, "What is no, that's why are they" so I had to, like, grab my phone and just hit pause lest we have an impromptu dance party. Um, so you talked about email guiding being like that guide at a party that says, "Hey, well, now that you've got your name tag, so to speak, here's where you can go get drinks, and here I want you to meet so and so." I think the listener is probably asking, "Well, how do you sell in your email though?" One tip to go from introducing somebody to the next thing they need, i.e. a product, to how to really do a good job of selling that.
Yeah. The number one tip that I have for people is that you are doing people a disservice if you do not start selling right away. By which I mean, so you show up to that party and somebody tells you, go to the name tag station. And then somebody tells you, this is your next step. Your problems didn't end when you got your name tag. So what is the next step in that problem is saying like, so let's say that somebody downloads a freebie PDF checklist that tells them how to do their taxes. Great. Not sure where to find all of this. Schedule a call with me. It's only $100, and we'll make sure that you have everything on this checklist before you hand it over to your accountant. It doesn't have to be, it shouldn't feel gross, actually. It just should not feel gross. And so you're doing people a disservice if you don't continue to solve their problems, if you just leave them hanging.
Yeah, and I think so many people feel like it's quite difficult or it all feels kind of gross, or I need to have 4 emails go out before I nail this 5th email that transitions into selling, you know? And then you see the click-through rates. I just looked at a client's click-through rates, who I don't do funnel consulting anymore, but he was a client who I still did funnel consulting with, like a previous client, because I used to do ads management and funnel consulting. And I just looked and it's like, you see the open rates happen and the click-through rates are doing well. And then all of a sudden email like 8, the click-through rates are 0, 0, 0, 0. And I'm like, what happened there?
They can't click on anything if there were no links to click.
Oh, well, there were links, but I was like, you started selling, huh? And you weren't selling before in your previous emails. And he's like, nope. I'm like, interesting. Well then. So where can somebody find more from you? Or do you have like a resource that can help them in the emails or on sales pages?
Yes. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of that. You can find me on Instagram at nomad.copy. You can find me online at nomadcopyagency.com. If you go to nomadcopyagency.com and go to my copy shop in the upper right-hand corner, it's not so much of a shop because it starts off with all of my free things. So I've got sales page guides, emails, guides, all of the above are right there for you. And in that copy shop, you will see we'll also put a link to the flash sale emails guides. So don't be afraid of selling. If you've been avoiding selling, I have every email and all of the words that you need to plug and play into a flash sale that also primes your audience before you start to sell so that it doesn't come at them like a wrecking ball.